All right, y'all, welcome to the show. We are jam-packed today, as you're about to see. So in just a second, Tim Walz emerges from hiding, and he is no longer playing around. He's going straight for the jugular of the right. We'll talk about that. We also have Trump taking a huge loss in federal court. And actually, it's not just him. There's another separate case where Doge has taken another huge loss. So we'll talk about that. Then we'll get to Bill Maher drops his single worst idea of all time, which there's a lot of competition there because you all know Bill Maher is a bit of a mess. Then we'll get to Sam Seder versus Benny Johnson on Piers Morgan's show. The Washington Post is collapsing as thousands of furious subscribers are leaving. And then we also have Sloppy Steve Bannon attacks Bernie Sanders on Tim Dillon's show. I have a lot to say about that. So if you want to see all that and more, do yourself a favor, subscribe below on YouTube. That helps out massively. It costs you nothing at all. It's a good way to get our videos like pumped out through the algorithm. Also, of course, a massive thank you to all of you who support this show on Patreon. It literally could not be done without you. Remember, guys, this is real independent media. So the way we fund this show is Patreon donations, tips on YouTube. We have Substack for Crystal Kyle and friends, and then the default YouTube ads, and that's it. So in other words, I've never had a conversation with an advertiser, not once in my life. I've never had a conversation with a corporation, never done an ad read on air, never talked to a billionaire or a government in no way, shape, or form. This is true grassroots media. I'm very proud of what we built here, and you guys made that possible. So again, thank you very much. All right, let's go ahead and dive into it because we have a lot of stuff to get to. Let's start with this one. So Tim Walz has seemingly emerged from hiding, right? We haven't heard much from him since him and Kamala and their run. Well, he looks like he is no longer messing around. He's got no time for BSing, or as he's about to say here, tinkering around the edges. What you're about to see is his instincts in the wake of Trump taking the White House are exactly right. And he's saying things that many other Democrats are perhaps too afraid to say, or maybe they just don't agree with him, but they would be wrong if they don't agree with him. Listen to this. Let's start with this one.
I hear the thing out there is that when we get back, which we we'll fight, I'll tell you what people are going to expect is they're not going to expect us to tinkle around the edge with the ACA. They're going to expect universal health care.
Let's just pause on that real quick. He's like, all right, man, incrementalism. We tried it. Enough. Forget like more subsidies for the ACA. People are going to want universal health care. And what he's saying is they are right to want that. Because you know what? When you look at a situation like we're witnessing right now with a literal robber baron coup and the destruction of the administrative state and the regulatory state and the insanity of Donald Trump, when you look at that, that should be your reaction. Your reaction should be, I want the exact opposite of whatever this is, right? So in other words, all of these so-called moderate Democrats, in reality, they're just MAGA sellouts and MAGA collaborators. What are they talking about right now? Well, we just discussed it on the show yesterday. They are literally highlighting all of the areas where they think the other side has a point. Like, oh yeah, I think maybe we went too far on trans stuff and maybe on crime and on this and that. Why would you expect anybody to vote for you if your whole campaign is going to be built on this idea? The other side, they're right on quite a few things, and maybe we should discuss that and highlight that and focus on that. Why would anybody vote for you? Why would anybody support you when you say, my agenda is a watered-down version of their agenda? And so what Tim Walz is saying here is, look, man, enough with the incrementalism. We tried it. That helped pave the road to get us where we are now. People are going to want universal health care, and they're going to be correct to want universal health care. So we need politicians who represent that ideology and that philosophy. Look, he's exactly right. And one of the problems with the last election is that, unfortunately, it feels like Tim Walz was muzzled, right? I mean, he came out of the gates hot, man. Him and Kamala came out of the gates hot. Every time he did a cable news segment, it would go viral. I mean, he's the one who came up with the holy shit, these right-wingers are weird, bro. Yes, they're authoritarian. They're all the other negative things, too. But they're fucking weird, right? He was bringing up the meme of J.D. Vance fucking couches at the rally speeches. And at that time, by the way, Kamala had like a 6-point lead in the polls. Then they got way more conservative. The Biden staffers hopped on board the Kamala train, and they were helping to steer the direction of the campaign. And then we got what? Kamala Harris going around with Liz Cheney, right? And telling Tim Walz, hey, shut up and go hide in the basement. Well, that was a problem. You needed Tim unleashed, Tim unchained. And then if he was able to do the thing that he does, they would have been way better off. Right? But what I'm happy to see here is it looks like Tim Walz understands that. It looks like he understands, hey man, maybe we should be more aggressive. Maybe we should be more clear. Maybe we should represent an opposite philosophy to MAGA. That's what this means when he says, enough with the incrementalism. Universal healthcare is what they're going to want, and they're right to want that. And you're seeing this sort of radicalization, for lack of a better term, happen with the Democratic base. That's why it's like over 60% of the Democratic base right now are going, I want you to be more oppositional to Trump. Right? So he's nailing it. Let's keep going.
If there's a lesson here, I always said this. We had a 1-vote majority in Minnesota when we moved clean energy. We moved reproductive rights. We moved a whole slew of progressive, very popular, including things around guns and gun safety, very popular things. We moved it with a 1-vote majority. And people ask, well, what do you call a 1-vote majority? A majority. Simple as that.
So let's talk about this, man. The reason I was so supportive of Tim Walz is not because, he's a great campaigner, which he is. But the reason I was so supportive of him, I wouldn't care if he was the most boring man in America with zero charisma. The reason I was so supportive was because of his record. Best governor in the country by far. He genuinely believes in the philosophy of FDR, right? Or he's like the Bernie Sanders as a governor in Minnesota. But also, it wasn't even just his time as a governor. It's also his time in Congress. So let's remember what this man accomplished, again, with a 1-seat majority as a governor, but also his votes on the congressional record. He gave us universal free school meals, legal weed, carbon-free electricity by 2040. He gave tax rebates to the working class up to $1,300 as long as they make under $150,000 a year. He did 12 weeks paid family leave, 12 weeks paid sick leave. By the way, literally any one of these things would be a tremendous record in and of itself. Never mind doing all of them. You give me one Democratic politician at the national level, one Democratic president deliver for us 12 weeks paid family leave and 12 weeks paid sick leave. Are you fucking kidding me? They'll be building statues to that person. No doubt about it. He banned gay conversion therapy, knowing it's a scam. He did red flag laws for guns, so that if somebody comes out and says, I'm going to shoot up the school tomorrow, you are then legally allowed to take their guns. Universal background checks for guns, automatic voter registration, free public college if you make under $80,000 a year. He banned the PFAS, which are the forever chemicals which give people cancer. By the way, Trump just rolled back the federal regulations on those things. RFK, where you at, dog? I thought this was something you cared about. Now your daddy overlord boss does it, and you're like, nowhere to be found. I don't know what happened there. He did a $2.2 billion increase in K-12 school funding, sectoral bargaining for nursing home workers. He opposed the Wall Street bailouts in 2008 when he was in Congress, voted against outsourcing deals, codified Roe v. Wade, did right to repair, had a 100% rating from Planned Parenthood, banned non-compete clauses, raised the minimum wage for small businesses, raised taxes on multinational corporations, protected gender-affirming care, banned medical providers from withholding care over debt, protected construction workers from wage theft, did a massive Minnesota infrastructure bill, opposed the Iraq War, fought the neocons twice when they tried to bomb Syria. He opposed sending weapons to Saudi Arabia, and I didn't even get to everything. This is what this man has done, right? So he has a great record, and again, I wouldn't care if he was the opposite of charismatic. I wouldn't care if he was the most boring man on the planet, but he also happens to be a genuinely good politician and a genuinely good campaigner. The only weak spot might be debates, as we saw. But honestly, I don't really care much because I think he's very well positioned relative to everybody else that we're talking about, right? Now, I would love it if Jon Stewart ran for president. We've been talking about that quite a bit. But, guys, guess what Tim Walz just came out and flirted with the other day? He did an interview the other day, and he came out and he said, yeah, I'm considering running in 2028 for president. Okay, Timbo, I see you. But look, you might say, okay, well, he's got the right policy agenda. He's saying the right things vis-a-vis incrementalism versus universal policies. All that is great. But does he fully and truly understand the threat that is MAGA, right? So does he know how to resist and how to fight? Well, here's another clip that came out maybe a week or so ago. This went kind of viral. Listen to what he had to say.
You see the nonsense that's being put forward on that. We're going to need your voice there, because I would just end with this. And we're seeing it in these town halls. That charismatic leader's not going to come there. You know, I see the pundits on TV. What's wrong with the Democratic Party? What's wrong is our country's being stole by fascists and Nazis, and we're trying to do all we can to try and do that. But
so he just said, I guess this was a private event, somebody was recording it. He just said, what's wrong right now with the country is that it's being stolen by a bunch of, quote, fascists and Nazis. Talking about MAGA, talking about Trump, talking about Elon. Isn't it refreshing to hear somebody say it with their chest? That we had to sit there and watch Elon Musk do, what was it, 2, 3 Sig Heils, fascist salutes, going all in with the motion. And then we had to be gaslit for 2 weeks straight where they're, oh, well, actually, he's autistic. And actually, he was just sending his heart out to the crowd. And really, I mean, it had nothing to do with that. I don't even know what you're talking about, bro. We had to deal with being gaslit to our face over and over and over. And many Democrats said bupkis about this, said nothing. Just kept their mouths shut. Here's Tim Walz, comes in, elbow from the top rope. No, they're fascists and they're Nazis. That is the correct reaction. That is the correct reaction. In this moment, what I want to see from Democratic leaders is resist literally every single step of the way, because what the right is doing is untenable. And also stand for the opposite philosophy, stand for social democracy, right? And look, that's what he's offering. That's what he's offering. So I believe, was it him that floated this? I think he came out and said, what we should be doing is like, you know how they had daily COVID briefings during the beginning of COVID? What Democrats should be doing is like a daily Doge briefing or a daily MAGA briefing where you talk about, hey, here's all the harm that they did today. Here's all the horrible policies they implemented today. Here's all the illegal and unconstitutional spending cuts and freezes that they did today. I think Tim Walz should do that. I think Tim Walz should start going on cable news all the time. I think he should start going on independent media all the time. I think he should do the daily MAGA or Doge briefings, and he should be the one to be at the front of the line fighting these people. Because I don't know if you guys have noticed, but there ain't many people who are really leading that charge. So, you know, we've had some good fighters, don't get me wrong. You have the AOCs and the Jasmine Crockett's and the Bernie Sanders who's doing an anti-oligarchy tour, but Hakeem Jeffries is a mess. He's wrong on the ideology. He's wrong on how to fight. He doesn't even try to fight effectively. Chuck Schumer, same thing. Don't get me started on him. It's fucking embarrassing. So many of these politicians. Alyssa Slotkin is given the response to Trump's State of the Union address, and she voted for 8 of Trump's cabinet picks. Like, what are we talking about here? So there is a lack of leadership. Tim Walz can and should provide that leadership. He can and should be the one to step up, be the one to lead, be the one to fight, be the one to provide the ideological framework that makes all the other Democrats follow along, right? That's what I want to see. That's what I want to see. And this guy is, he didn't get a fair shake the first time around. And then don't even get me started on the right-wing hacks and liars and frauds who basically tarnish this man over fucking nothing, right? Like Joe Rogan. Oh, he's just a brazen pathological liar. You support Donald Trump, bitch. Oh, Tim Walz is a pathological liar because he said he was in China for the Tiananmen Square thing and he was like there a week earlier or a week after. And you oh, that's the worst lie I've ever heard. Or, oh, he made the higher rank in the military when technically he did, but he didn't fill out the paperwork and he stepped away. So technically he actually didn't hit it, but he kind of did. Oh, biggest liar in the world. Trump told over 30,000 lies in his first fucking term alone. He lied to Joe Rogan's face repeatedly, and Rogan sat there and took it. Okay, so I don't want to hear from the right-wing hacks who, you know, they're going to smear whoever the fuck comes out as a Democratic leader. But what we need in a Democratic leader is somebody who's going to keep plowing ahead like a bull in a china shop. And Tim Walz might be that. I mean, these clips right here, if they're any indication of what this guy's capable of. And the other thing is, for the love of God, at all costs, protect Tim Walz in the sense that don't allow the MAGA sellouts and collaborators around him. Don't allow the Biden world people or the Bill Clinton world people, because they're going to whisper in his ear and tell him all the worst fucking things in the world. They're going to say, Tim, don't run on 12 weeks paid family leave and sick leave. That's too radical. That's too extreme. Americans won't like that. So it's going to be a wrestling match. It's going to be a battle to try to make sure, if this guy decides to come out and be the leader, that you surround him with people who are not total fucking idiots and swamp creatures who will make him a worse candidate. Again, The problem with the Kamala campaign was they largely hid Tim Walz. That was a problem in and of itself. But it's going to be a whole nother beast if he starts leading and then you have others getting around. Oh, no, don't do that. We need to embrace the era of neoliberalism again. You have to, here's the 6 issues where you should be agreeing with MAGA. It's not the fucking time for that. He needs new, young, talented, intelligent strategists, not all the fucking parasites who have destroyed the Democratic Party multiple times over. They should be nowhere near Tim Walz. So anyway, definitely some good news that he's considering running in 2028, and I'm glad that he's already saying things that are true. Hey y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.